Good morning to you, St. Lucia. As always, thank you so much for being with us. We come into you live from the studios of the National Television Network, the Government Information Service. I am Lisa Joseph. It is Wednesday, and we're down to day 9 in the month of February. Homer, I'm right on this, yeah?
Right. Yes,
I tend to lose track of the days. They run by so quickly. So we are 9.
Yes, it is the 9th of February.
February 9, and yesterday we were saying it would be a special sort of conversation today and so forth. And Homer is there. Homer, is this forest green?
You can call it that. Emerald, forest green, yes. It's the mix.
Yeah.
Like
now, I woke up, saw the weather. I know that today, because of our conversation, green would work, orange would work. Again, I went into the closet, pulled out, and I said, why not combine? And then because it's so gloomy on the outside,
you're bringing a little cheer.
Yes, let's make it a little cheerful.
We appreciate it.
Let's bring hope to the world, Homer. So my colors, quite apart from sort of marking the occasion of our conversation, it adds that dash of hope as well. So we'll see how that goes along for the rest of the day. Bring cheer for the rest of the day. So before we get into our substantive program for the morning, the ball is all yours.
We always have to keep you informed. The Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs yesterday, the 8th of February, confirmed 33 new cases of COVID-19. These samples were processed on Monday, that is the 7th of February, from a total of 290 samples, of which 200 samples were processed at the Ezra Long Laboratory and 90 samples at Laboratory Services and Consultations Limited. These samples were collected from the 5th of February to February 7th, and this number of positive cases makes up 11.38% of all samples processed on that day. So we see quite a decline in the positivity rate there. That is good news for us. Confirmation was also received of the recovery of 425 individuals diagnosed with COVID-19, bringing the number of active cases in country to date to 2,056. Currently, there are 52 positive cases of COVID-19 admitted at the respiratory hospital, of which one of them is in critical care. The Ministry of Health yesterday also reported one new COVID-19 related death, bringing the total number of COVID-19 deaths in country to 261, and the total number of COVID-19 related deaths to 81. If you are looking to get vaccinated today, the places that you want to visit, the VG Sports Complex, as well as St. Anthony's Medical Care in VA4, the Denry Mothers Preschool as well, from the hours 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Make sure you follow the protocols for COVID-19, as well as to reinforce that while the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine is no longer available on island, that's due to the batch having expired back for January 31st, 2022. However, the Ministry of Health is imploring you to make use of the Janssen, that's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, your one-shot vaccine, as well as the Pfizer vaccine. So while there's no more AstraZeneca for the while, the plan of the Ministry of Health is to be able to have that restocked by next week. And we know how it is trying to procure those vaccines. It may not necessarily come next week. I'm not saying it won't. In the event it's not there yet by next week, don't think anything of it. It's just that sometimes procurement, these things take a little time. But the officials are working assiduously to ensure that we have those 3 choices at our disposal. So, that being said, we want to say good morning to our very special guest for this Wednesday, our conversation. And last Friday, the 4th of February, the world observed Cancer Day. Very, very significant for the world over. Here in St. Lucia, more and more of our brothers and sisters are falling to cancer, all forms of cancer. Predominantly, we hear of breast cancer, prostate cancer. But as you will hear the story this morning, we can have cancer here in St. Lucia in its rarest form. And so we say good morning to cancer survivor, Miss Eugenia Fagan. And we also have with us our very dear friend, Naomi Grandison, the family life educator with the Bureau of Health Education. Ladies, thank you so much for braving the weather this morning, the cold coming out of bed.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Yeah, happy to be here as usual, Lisa. I'm loving the colors.
Yes, we're coordinating nicely across the board there. Yeah. Very nice.
You're in the forest all the way to the sun.
All the way to the sun. I love that.
Actually, I'm just being patriotic today.
Independence, correct. Independence is around the corner coming up. So thank you so much for bringing out Colors Day.
Yeah, and we were talking about pairing the colors yesterday. So
it's great.
Eugenia is showing up.
Yeah, she's showing up as well. Let's start with Naomi and let's talk about the World Cancer Day observance. Bring us up to speed on the theme, the global theme. And for us here in St. Lucia, we have a sub-theme. But tell us what that sub-theme is and why did we feel it necessary to expand on the global theme in our context?
So the global theme is Close the Care Gap, and our sub-theme is Show Concern for Cancer. And we felt it necessary to add that part because how are we going to close the care gap, really and truly, is if we become more in tune with what is happening with cancer, become more aware of the preventative measures, the screening measures. So if we are to hear more stories, if we are to learn what is available and be more interested and have that concern, then we can close the care gap.
At the Ministry of Health, in terms of the sort of outreach, over the years, and I've covered of global observance of cancer here in St. Lucia for a number of years, Breast Cancer Awareness Month for a number of years. The emphasis has always been on individuals for them to be able to take control, take charge, have the responsibility of ensuring that they do not become cancer patients. Now, but there is more to that sort of responsibility sphere, if you will. So from the Ministry of Health's perspective, how are you, in terms of the care gap, bridging that care gap, meeting the individual where they at in terms of helping them with prevention, screening, and so forth?
We have a number of services all over the island at the community level. And I'm happy you brought that up because the theme speaks to also the quality of care and the access and discussing the loopholes and discussing areas for improvement. So as part of the theme, we're hoping that the conversations such as this today will help to bring to the fore and guide some of the policies and the things that we really need to address and improve within the healthcare system. As of this point, we do have screening services at all the wellness centers, breast self-exams, the breast exam done by the nurse. We have the pap smears to check for persons who may have cervical cancer. We have also we have sexual health screenings, even HIV and syphilis screenings. We have the medical clinic at every wellness center. Every week there's a medical clinic. So if somebody wants to go get the prostate exam, which is a sore point for some men. If you have symptoms that you're concerned about, and you could ask the doctor about further assessments, your history to know how often you should check. Testicular exams can be done also at the wellness centers. And these services free. Granted, there may be a small fee with taking the samples and bringing it to the lab. We do also have a pharmacist there during the medical clinics. On the community level, the nurses and the team, including the educator, would do some special screening days to try to make the community aware. And this is happening across the island in various communities, calling on the members of the community to come in and get screened. Their pap smears, do their examinations and so on. And most importantly, to educate them on what we have and what the cancer is, what the symptoms are, what are some of the preventative measures. So this is what is happening. Also, there's an oncological department at OKEU for further investigation of persons suspected of having cancer and for continued treatment. I'm understanding that there are x-rays, ultrasounds, and so on to scan also the body to see if there are cancers elsewhere. And of course, we have the private sector. And I also want to give thanks to Faces of Cancer and the Cancer Society for doing their part. And Faces of Cancer also had a major screening in Vieux-Fort, very detailed with oncologists, specialists, gynecologists, mammograms, and a whole host of other things. And it shows you the limitations in access and the money it takes to, because there were so many people there by 6 o'clock in the morning, the lady was telling me, Dorothy. So we do have a long way to go, but indeed we do have some things in place already.
Yeah, there's certainly a long way to go, and perhaps in our panel discussion on Thursday at 12 noon, we'll be able to flesh some of those issues out some more. But we want to get to Eugenia, and again, and good morning again to you.
Yes, good morning.
Because Eugenia, and as I said, while we focus so heavily on breast cancer, we talk about the prostate cancer, there are rare cancers, because there are people who may do the screenings, and you screen it for this one thing, everything is fine, and then, lo and behold, something else is happening in the body. So, Eugenia, tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and disclose as much as you can and you want to about who is Eugenia Fagan.
Well, actually, thanks for inviting me here this morning. And I'm really happy to be here as part of the show. And as you just said, my name is Eugenia Fagan, and I am from the community of Babono. Actually, what would I like people to know about me? I am a cancer survivor, and it's been 13 years. And right now, I'm stage 4. And I have no fear. I'm fighting. I'm pushing. And I'm one that always feels that you can conquer if you put your mind to it. And you can get help where help is available.
All right, so you say you are at stage 4. Tell us, and 13 years now.
Yeah.
So tell us when you received the first diagnosis. What was that like? What symptoms were you experiencing that led to the diagnosis? And what type of cancer do you have?
Okay, actually, I have parotid gland cancer. In 2008, I was diagnosed. And it all began with a small mass at the back of my ear. And I felt that lump. And I went to my doctor seeking help. But he said there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe my lymph gland is reacting or something. But then it was a whole year and a half. I was up and down because I started feeling this pain towards the back of my ear. And it was like stabbing, like a knife going through my jawbone. And it became a little troublesome, you know, due to the fact that I was not able to sleep properly. I was not able to stay at my desk to really produce, you know, at work. But I went back to the doctor and I told him, you know, this thing is really bothering me. And I cannot stand that pain. It's becoming unbearable. But he told me to take painkillers and whatnot. So one day I told him, don't you think I have cancer? You know, that's something that people would think, you know. Then he told me, girl, cancer doesn't hurt. Forget that. Take that out of your mind. And I went back to work. I realized that thing was getting serious. So I spoke to my employer. I told him about the situation, and he, and in fact not they decided to assist me financially and to give me enough time to get second opinion. But I got second opinion in St. Lucia with Dr. Popilo. But he told me in Martinique, if I come up to Martinique, he will be able to do that surgery for me. And he told me it's a mass growing right behind my ear. And, but he will not be able to do that surgery in St. Lucia. But he told me if I have family overseas, he encouraged me to go and seek help overseas. Then I decided to go to Connecticut. After my employers decided to help me, I went to Connecticut where I had a sister there. And when I went there, she was with me for a while at the table. And I just felt that sharp pain. And I started screaming, man. That pain was so unbearable, excruciating pain in my jawbone. And I was rushed to emergency in Connecticut. Then when I got to the emergency room, they looked at me, they examined me, and they realized that there was a mass growing right there. So they decided to do some MRI and CT scans and whatnot. And they realized there was a tumor growing on a nerve. And if it was not for that nerve, I would not have known what was happening in my body. But I would say that, thank God, it was placed in that area so that it can let me know that something is really happening. And I was scheduled for surgery. And they did not disclose to me that I had cancer during the time. They allowed me to, because during the time it was my 40th birthday. And that was a birthday gift, I would say, the surgery. And they waited like 2 weeks after, and they just called me up and say, hello, Eugenia, you need to come to the oncology center at St. Francis Hospital and to see the oncologist. You have been diagnosed with cancer. And the cancer was just about to branch out to your brain. And they told me that I need to do treatment as soon as possible. So when they told me that, I could not believe what I'm hearing. But I was just writing everything that the doctor told me. And after he hung up the phone, I read what I had written, and then I couldn't understand what was happening to me. I felt like the whole world had fallen upon me, and I felt that I couldn't breathe. I started crying. And I called my sister. She was in the next room, and I cried and I cried. I called up my husband. I told my husband, I'm diagnosed with cancer. And he told me, take it easy, stop the crying, take it easy, breathe. I could remember that happening to me, and I just could not believe it. It's like my whole world had fallen apart. And I used to cry, but I used to pray that God will wipe up my tears, to dry up my tears. And the time came, I had to go for the preparation of this radiation therapy. This is what that was used, the therapy that was used, radiation. And they asked me to come in so that they can prepare me. So they had to make that net for my face so that they can, it was my right parotid gland. So they had to be able to get this radiation right on in my collar, here, right here. And if you can see right now, it looks,
just a bit discolored.
Discolored, you know. And I took 34 rounds of radiation.
Wow.
Strong radiation. The doctor told me that he was going to give me strong radiation because I don't live in the US and it's short term, so they're going to do it as strong as possible. If I was living there, they would have spaced it out. But I did 34 rounds of radiation. And thank God I had insurance at the time. I would say, thank God. My employer, we had staff insurance that helped me throughout my my treatment
process.
Yeah, and in a matter of like a week and a half, I saw my body deteriorating. And when I woke up in the morning, I used to see
clumps of hair.
Yeah, chunks of hair on the pillow. And I'm asking myself, what's going on? Is that for real? I thought that was happening when people do chemo. But then radiation, I said, is similar. So I started feeling sick. I used to vomit a lot. Honestly, my tongue got black, black like your mask. I couldn't believe myself, what I was looking like. And I used to weigh 150 pounds, and my weight started going down until I'm seeing 100 and, say, 101.
Oh, wow.
I'm saying, what's going on? I couldn't eat. And the smell of food and everything used to just
get you sick.
Get me sick. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. It was terrible. I had a terrible time. But thank God I had my sister beside me and my nephew who were there to support me. And I must say that cancer is terrible. It's a terrible thing. But you can fight it if you detect it early enough. And with this cancer, sometimes I just have to think of what happens. And I said, Lord, thank you so much where you have brought me and who I am today. Because this cancer is one that is very rare. And it falls under the head and neck cancers. And I got a lot of help and motivation from Faces of Cancer, that support group. And because I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, actually. And I pray a lot. And this is where I got my strength in just letting the whole church know that, you know, I'm a cancer survivor. I told them the whole process, what I went through, and I asked for prayers. And I share with a lot of people, like in different churches, about my experience. So it allowed me to just go through it, knowing that God is there with me. And I always told myself, this is one thing. I used to cry a lot at my office. I never used to let my staff see that I was crying. And I used to go in the conference room and just cry. And one day I came from work, and when I pulled up in front of my mother's house, I rest my head on the steering, and I said, Lord, dry up my tears. Normally I would stop by my mom in the afternoon to say hello. And I stayed there crying for a while before I entered the house. And my brother came out. My brother said, hey, what's happening to you? And I just started crying. And from that time, when I actually prayed and asked God for that to stop, dry up my tears, I never cried again. And I just got that strength right there and then. And I said, you know what? I'm going to be more than a conqueror.
Yes.
I've changed my life around. I became a vegan. I've been doing natural treatment, but right now I'm not taking anything really to say I'm taking a medication, but I'm just believing that the 8 laws of health can help me through. Now, what I forgot to tell you, I was diagnosed in 2008, but in 2015, during the time, I didn't have an oncologist as yet. I didn't have a doctor, but then when I came from doing my treatment, my doctor in the US, I had to be going up and down every 2 years. He told me to adopt an oncologist in St. Lucia that can, you know, help me navigate through that situation, you know, that cancer treatment and whatnot. But I adopted Dr. Gabriel. And I want to say thank God for Dr. Gabriel. Dr. Gabriel told me, listen, it's about, you know, 7 years. It's time for you to do a test. And he sent me to do a CT scan. And lo and behold, when he got the results, the cancer had already metastasized. It was back. And I have tumors on both of my lungs, my left lobe and my right lobe.
So what I
node,
wanted to
sorry.
ask, the cancer had gone into remission. After
Yes.
you
Yes.
did the radiation,
Yes.
you were rid of the cancer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the doctors told me there was no sign of recurrence. And honestly, I felt good, so I lived my life again. I mean, normal and whatnot. But then it was then when it returned, that's the time I became a vegan. And I started doing my natural treatment and whatnot. But during that time, I said, Lord, what is happening? Every time I go on Google, I would read about my cancer. I would see, it says about 5 years, you know, and all these things were discouraging me.
The survival rate.
Survival rate, 5 years. And I said, nah. And I spoke to my doctor in the US, and he told me, listen, that's a slow-growing cancer. You can live for 20 years or so, you know. Then I got hope when he told me that. But when I go and read online, I'm not seeing that at all. But anyway, I asked him 13 questions, my doctor in the US, and one of the questions, the last question was, how much time do I have? Am I going to die very soon?
And that's basically what everyone, cancer patients or not,
and I needed to know.
We always ask.
And he answered me. He said, as long as you want.
Yes.
You can live as long as you want to live. And I said, wow. And I said, you know what? I shall live or not die. And I declare that.
And that's one of the things that you hear a lot when speaking to not only cancer survivors, but doctors and people who assist with treatment, is that the person's mindset and state of mind is really important throughout the process.
And it goes to show some of the things we were looking at. Cancer is such a complex disease, and it puts a strain on you emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, and financially, significantly so. So one of the things I noticed with Eugenia's story is the support. And this is where we really have to bridge the gap, because a lot of our people do not have that level of, some of them don't have that level of support. So this is how she has continued. She reached out to her community in the church. She had a sister, a nephew, even her employer came on board. And most importantly, she supported herself. And she reached out for her higher power of understanding. So I think, of course, these are some of the things we also have to consider when we're closing the gap.
And you know, Eugenia was speaking, and a lot of what she said mirrored with my own experience. So for 2020, having been diagnosed, and she was saying that almost like a divine intervention, that the mass was in an area to give you so much pain to let you know that there was a cancer. I was experiencing exceedingly sharp pains. I used to be taking like 12 painkillers a day just to get through the work day. And I can completely understand, because I saw myself in that story, coming to work every day, not wanting to let anyone know that I was in, or even if I was to say, well, you know, I'm not feeling well today, but I would still come and give it my 100. Because, you know, when you are accustomed to being on the go and doing things at a certain level, you want to maintain that. But I started, those sharp pains became more and more. Now, as someone who's had polycystic ovarian syndrome for, I don't know, maybe from the time I started menstruating, I was having those issues. It wasn't later on until maybe in my 20s I figured out that it was polycystic ovarian syndrome from reading and so forth. But never in my wildest dream that I would believe that that condition would have led to endometrial cancer. And so for 2020, with those sharp pains continuing, the ovaries, by the time I had gotten to hospital, it was time for emergency surgery. There it was found that the ovaries were twisting around the ligaments, And there we thought that was the end of it. But like you, when they did that biopsy and it came back and I had that first surgery, came back, then they said, okay, there was cancer in there, stage 1B, it was in both ovaries. And they thought everything was okay, that we'd gotten it, it was early and so forth. We'd just do a little round of chemotherapy, maybe. But like you, Dr. Gabriel was my saving angel. And Dr. Gabriel said, no, let's just go and remove the entire womb because there may be cancer in there. I'd done all the right things after. I'd done the scan, I had done the blood work and everything. All of those tests came back clean. But his experience told him otherwise. And he said, no, go in, remove everything, do another biopsy. And you know, lots of people gave lots of advice. Had I listened otherwise, it would have been a different story. I listened, I went in, got it done, removed it. Second surgery in less than 4 weeks. And at the end of it, the cancer was in there.
In the endometrium.
In the endometrium, stage 3.
Wow.
Now, endometrium cancer is something that moves very quickly. Wow. Yeah? So I can see with you, and as you say, the saving grace. Went through all of the chemotherapy treatments. Now, I really empathize with you because doing the chemotherapy, I was doing it alongside, never missed a beat at work. Because I felt that if I wasn't at work, it would have meant somehow that the cancer was winning, that I was now going to relinquish you know, my everything, because my work, what I do, it's part of me. I love it so much. And for me to have allowed cancer to have me remain on a bed, I was at home after surgery, and my mom would tell you I was miserable. Because I just felt I needed to take control of my life.
I'm so encouraged.
Yes, I needed to take control of my life. So many people do not know. So all the time people see me at work, I'm at home, I'm performing my duties. No one would know that I was going through this heavy. And cancer is a very personal thing. So you were speaking about how you cried, and I had my moments of crying. And I understand what it is. And I'm saying you cannot go through something as personal and as traumatizing as cancer without believing in a power that's bigger than you. So when you spoke about your faith and calling on your prayer warriors in the church, I understand. You cannot go through something like that, see your body being consumed by this vicious foreign entity and not call on a higher power. And so faith is exceedingly important.
That's right.
You had people who were strong by you. My immediate thought has always been my family, but most importantly, my sister and my mother, these two people. My sister is disabled, my mom is her caregiver. I am the one taking care of the two. And I can remember the day I felt so ill, I had to pull up, couldn't drive, I had to pull up on the side of the road when that pain came for me. And I started vomiting at the side of the road. Vehicles are passing by, but no one, again, it's a personal thing, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
So there I am, just wrenched over on the side of a road, and I'm calling on God, saying to him, Father, I know that your plate is full, but give me some time. Who's going to take care of my mother and my sister? That was my prayer. That was my immediate prayer, because I knew in that moment that my time had come. I knew it. So I can heavily relate to your situation, and I know that there are many people out there who would be going through something like that, because as we know, cancer diagnosis is happening how many seconds in a day, all over the world. It doesn't mean it has to be your end. We all have an end, but today doesn't have to be your day.
True.
Yeah?
I love that. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we have to stay strong.
Oh, yeah.
Homer said the mindset. That's why I said I didn't want to give in to cancer. If I had stayed on that bed and felt sorry for myself and all of this thing, the cancer is winning.
Yes.
And as survivors, that is what's at the center for survivors. Not allowing the cancer to win.
Yes.
So I
really appreciate what you shared this morning. And I can really feel what you're saying, because when I think of that thing you said, is very personal.
Yes.
Not even your husband or your children or your family members can know the depth of what's going on with you. And I want to say again that I remember one day when I got the results from Dr. Gabriel, and he told me, do you know that the tumors in your lungs are growing, they are multiplying, and you need to do something quickly. And I could recall driving from Dr. Gabriel's office all alone, going back to the office, and I cried so much on the way. And I just said, Lord, do something for me, Father, just do something, because I cannot bear that. I really could not bear knowing that I'm going down like this, you know. And I must say, God hears the prayers of his children.
Yes, he does.
Yes. And he has told us he never gave us a spirit of fear. He has given us a sound mind so that we can tread on scorpions and lions and whatever comes our way. And I kept that in my mind. And I used to write a lot during my time. I used to write everything that comes to my mind. I wrote poems, I wrote songs, and I used to just, maybe something nice I want to tell somebody, I would write it.
Yes.
And I used to ask God to reveal to me those things that I need to change in my life. Reveal to me that maybe people, maybe I've offended, and maybe I need to reconcile or something. And honestly, during that time, during that moment, it was God and myself. He revealed everything to me. I've changed my life around drastically, and I'm living. Thank God for that.
You're finding purpose in a new way. And that is true. You know, when you go through something so traumatic, Homer, you begin to rethink many things, rethink the relationships, rethink, as you say, the way that you would affect people. And every day I ask for me to be given the ability to just do everything as best as I can in a positive manner.
That's right. That's right.
And to affect people positively.
That's right.
And so now I take a little extra time to, you know, surveil someone, assess an individual when I'm approaching them. Because sometimes many of us have silent things that we're going through and we don't want to share.
That's right.
And so now I take an extra time to perhaps be a listening ear to someone else. I mean, it's always been my nature to sit and talk to people, but now I do it even more so in more of a listening fashion. And I think at times people feel they do not have enough of an outlet where someone can just truly, simply listen to what they're going through without judgment. And I think that that's an important thing for all of us to be able to have.
Yeah, indeed. So, you know, your stories are so powerful, they're touching, and I know that our viewers definitely would have been touched by the two of you sharing. So I want to thank you for that. One of the things that both of you mentioned is the stages of cancer. You know, Lisa saying that initially she was in stage 1 and then stage 3. You now saying that you're in stage 4. Naomi, if you could help us in understanding the stages, because you hear stage 4, you hear stage 3, and you might think, you know, wow, this is scary. But the importance of understanding the stages of cancer and, you know, what you could do at each stage.
Well, just very simply based on what I know at this moment. I'm just so moved. I'm just like, trying to recover from what I'm hearing. I think just simply, and then if anybody wants to add to that, it's basically stage 1 would be that it is contained within the region where it originated from. So for instance, if you have a cancer because there are cancers that don't necessarily have a particular region, they're in the blood and they start off in the lymph nodes and stuff like that. But let's just say to the point where we have the parotid gland, which is the salivary gland, and the endometrium, which is a female reproductive lining, then if it is contained within that organ, and an organ is a specific made up of different cells and tissues with a specific function. And the stages, so that's stage 1, and stage 2 is basically as it continues to move closer and outer, what we call metastasize, within other tissue cells of close by other organs of functioning, or whether it be muscles or the blood. So as the number goes up, the metastasis, or I would say the spreading of the particular cancer, it reaches further. It becomes more disastrous. It's harder to come from that space and survive. So hence the reason why we were saying early detection is key to extending your life and getting treated. I just want to add one thing though, because we live in an environment where when somebody is sick in St. Lucia, we're very compassionate and caring people, I would say, contrary to popular belief. Everybody has a herb for you. Everybody has a magic treatment. Everybody has the right diet.
So many doctors.
Everybody has the right smoothie combination for you.
So many doctors.
And so everybody becomes a professional overnight because, oh my God, this is tragic. You have cancer. I say this to say that this is not to dismiss the support and the natural things. But we have a great number of cancers that is unknown what the cause is. And we have great minds. I'm sure a lot of us know these brilliant little minds we went to school with. They cannot settle because they're so brilliant. These are the persons that go into science. These are the persons who've been around for thousands of years, who've been trying to figure out cancer, who've come up with all these other treatments, whether it be chemotherapy, whether it be radiation, whether it be all sorts of plants and different entities and chemicals they're trying to extract and learn and understand. So I say this to my people, please become open-minded when a professional who's gone to school for over 7 years tells you you're at stage 3, you're at stage whatever, you're at stage 1. These are some of the options you have. And they do consider there's nutritional counseling that comes with being diagnosed, and we'll hear that a lot more about that tomorrow at the panel discussion. 12 midday, have something to drink, eat your food and listen to us. So I say all this to say that you will be confused.
Oh yeah.
But remember the professional advice. And when it's stage 4, basically we're saying that it is, especially if it's a type of cancer that spreads very quickly, some of them a little slower, then it's basically, it's difficult to get rid of it because you have to sort of like try to kill the cancer cells because now they're multiplying. Cancer cells are basically cells that multiply out of control to the point they form a tumor and they start to disrupt the function. It's like Lisa explained it in a particular way. It's this thing. It invades your system, and it is a thing with the way the cell functions, and that is what is causing the disruption and the dysfunction in the body. It's not a foreign thing that enters your body.
And you know, and we said it at the top of the show. I said it quite a number of times before, that we all here. And we can all be diagnosed with the same cancer, and we will all have different outcomes.
True.
We will all be, it may be at the same stage, all of us may have the same stage, but our bodies will all react differently.
Yes.
And that is part of the complexity of cancer because it is such a highly personal, individualized disease, which is why you can't seem to find a single cure for the cancer. And even the treatments as well.
Very good point,
because going through the chemotherapy, he said, but how are you always at work? How you managed to do that? I mean, quite apart from will, but the chemo drugs that I took did not give me that vomiting and uncontrolled vomiting and so forth. I mean, I had diarrhea. Couldn't escape that. But the most adverse thing that I had was the nerve damage, neuropathy.
Yeah.
So, times my back, this leg here, the legs here, and the feet. There would be times, perhaps not the immediate day after treatment, but 2 days after, my feet. There was the morning I got up and I tried standing, getting off the bed, and I fell back because I felt lead in the feet. Painful. I felt as if my feet were so swollen, like an elephant's foot. Couldn't get. So that nerve damage, I have to live with it. I have to learn how to manage it. Skin rashes and that sort of thing. Have to learn how to deal with that. You know, when I look at my legs and I'm like, oh boy, you know, the beautiful legs that I love showing off my skin. Now I often so conscious to hide it a little bit. It's beginning to fade a bit, but still it's there. So there are a lot of scars that stay with you. And then with cancer too, you never really have a final moment to say it's over. And so you are constantly in a state of panic. And if you do not have that strong ability to withstand, because every little thing that you will feel in the body, you're jumpy. So you need a strong state of mind for you to be able to keep yourself up if you will and try to say, okay, no, I don't believe this is what it is. It's not a cancer returning, it's probably this and that.
You know the thing so much, you know? I really relate to your story and what you're saying here right now. Because many times, I mean, even though I'm strong, I have my moments, you know?
Yes, we all do.
And sometimes I see my funeral so many times, you know? Like something is behind you, telling you, you'll die. Everything you feel, that is the cancer.
Yes.
And what makes it worse for me is the fact that I'm aware that I have tumors in my lungs, and they are getting bigger and bigger. And knowing that I'm at stage 4 right now, it's like I used to say after stage 4, there's nothing more.
But look at you.
It's like you're just waiting for your time, you know? And that's how I am. And when I spoke with my doctor in the US and I asked him, what can I do knowing that I'm stage 4? He told me I could try immunotherapy. Immunotherapy, because what happened, it's like I was actually like a guinea pig at that hospital. Because out of thousands and thousands of cancer patients, the doctor told me just 1 or 2 or 3, you know? So it's like they were actually, you know,
using your case as
that's right.
Test.
That's right. Using my case, and
test case.
That's right. And I used to be going for a follow-up visit every 2 years. You know, because of COVID, I'm not able to travel right now. You know, but what I'm saying is that during that time, it's you and God, and because stage 4 is not easy to know that you're living in stage 4. But I've been doing very well, I must say. I don't know what's happening. I just need to go for another CT scan. But I know the last time I went to Martinique and I went to Connecticut as well, that it has been growing. And it's doing its thing.
But are you able to function daily? Or are you in pain?
Well, actually, I'm not in pain. Sometimes I feel like the side effects of the radiation. Radiation was used to as a therapy, and radiation also gives you cancer.
Yes, it does.
And this is one thing that
awakened cells.
Yes, and hence the reason why I felt like some lumps under my neck right here. And I had to do a biopsy, but it was not cancerous. But radiation can cause, it can awaken all of those cells, these cancer cells and whatnot. And what I try to do is to not feed my cancer.
Right. Exactly.
So the nutrition aspect.
It's very important.
It loves sugar. It loves stress.
Yes.
But honestly, I'm battling with that stress. I'm always under stress. Work stress and moving here and there, and you know,
It's important to function, but do so in a calm state, not worry too much. And you know, don't worry about things that you have no control over.
That's right. That's right.
So, but it's very important to manage the stress level. And Dr. Gabriel, as you know, would tell you that very sternly.
Yes.
Stress is the #1 contributing factor. We talk about everything else, but to a healthy person, stress will take you down.
Yeah.
So that's the important thing, and I know that when we have that panel discussion come tomorrow afternoon, you will be emphasizing that as well. It is so important for us to manage our stress.
True. And you said something earlier about going to work. You were going to work all the time. There was a time I was not well at all, and I spent 6 months at home. And everybody would tell me, don't go back to work, don't go back to work. And maybe the environment where you work will cause your cancer to get worse and whatnot. But I've been working with this company for 33 years. Where I'm working, and not going back to work just like that and just cut off work from you.
It's your daily routine.
Yeah,
it's part of who you
it's
are.
like something that's part of me, and I kept going to work, and after the 6 months I went back to work, and to me I have never worked harder like now than I worked before.
Yes,
and to me,
you're not letting it
I'm
win.
just focusing on what I have to do and not letting the cancer win, you know. But I must remember in between that sometimes you can forget that you have things happening in your body, that you will overwork, you will stress out too much, and you will do so many other things, you know. Whereas you need to take care of you, yourself. Nobody understands what you need more than you.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And then I know sometimes part of our stress that we can take on as well as survivors is that we try to shield the people in our lives as well from what's going on with us. I know certainly for me, I know that my mom, she doesn't handle trauma very well. And so just wanting to contain, be strong for myself and for her and for the larger family. So all of that can certainly, it can either work well for you if you know how to manage doing so, or it can really add to your level of stress. And so it's important for you to take time out, as you were saying, and know who you are, know how much you can handle on your own, and then reach out for help. Reach out for help. You know, whether it be the Bureau of Health Education, I am so sure, Naomi, that the Bureau is always open to being able to assist individuals. So how can someone who is going through cancer reach out to the Bureau of Health Education, and where you can help them access services?
Our department is primarily responsible for health promotion and providing as much information, and also going to various places, educating, being part of health fairs, directing people to the resources where they can get the assistance. So this is how we can provide some of the help. I know that there's also medical assistance within the Ministry of Health. We can give information on the different wellness centers, the oncology unit, and also to come in to guide the person on counseling, give them support, give them a listening ear if once we are, we are able to. And so this is what I know for our department within the Bureau of Health Education. Sometimes people might not understand the value of just letting persons know where they can go, what they can do, but I think it's significant in allaying some of the anxieties of the person with cancer. Also, we do have these other support groups, and of course we can guide those persons to these support groups because, we're a department, we cover all health issues, and we're out there, busy, always out in the community. And so just linking them to the different support groups is where I think they find their strength and their hope. I know Cancer Society has different prostheses and other things. We have the Faces of Cancer, who has invested a lot of money in different diagnostic measures, and just forming a community with the cancer persons, and even trying to get into research to help persons and teaching persons on the different forms of cancer. So really directing and supporting the person in where to go and where to get stuff done.
All right, I want to thank you so much. This morning was really about sharing that story and being able to reach out to individuals, because given the fact that we had something in the region of 1,200 deaths from cancer in 2020, it means that in St. Lucia it is so pervasive, and it means that there are people out there who are going through the struggle. And this morning was about to tell you that there's hope. You don't have to be alone at all, and you can seek that. So I want to thank you, Genia, for sharing so openly. Thank you, Naomi Grandison, for coming through. Homer?
And thank you, Lisa, for sharing your story as well. I think not only did you help Eugenia through the process, but our viewers definitely, I think, were touched. Naomi was touched. I saw her trying and just holding back those tears, and I'm like, I'm there with you, Naomi. I'm there with you. So it really was a great show, and we want to thank all of you for being here with us. And of course, viewers, thank you for always joining us, Lisa and Homer. And remind them again, Lisa, tomorrow's happenings.
Tomorrow morning on Updates with Lucia and Homer, we'll be speaking with the Probation and Parole Office. So you'll want to be able to tune in for that. Very interesting, informative session. And then at 12 noon, I'll be sitting down with the Dr. Owen Gabriel, oncologist, Fadia Campbell, the nutritionist, Dr. Franklin Bray, who is a pastor as well as a psychologist. And we'll also be having another cancer survivor. That session, I like to describe it as perhaps it's going to be more of a sort of open consultation, if you will, a patient-doctor consultation. So, again, taking it on that personal level so that we can really begin to understand the full impact of cancer in St. Lucia. Right, Homer? So it's going to be a long, interesting day for us. That brings us to the end of the morning update. Thank you so much, Lisa Joseph, alongside Homer DeMar.